The Florida Panthers dropped this game 3, the first road game of this best of 7 series against the Washington Capitals, 6-1 at Capital One Arena. On this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, I will be bringing Francisco Oporta of Litterbox Cats and Florida Panthers history to discuss the 6-1 loss, all on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome to this special Saturday, May 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Monoman12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. And thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Don't forget to also follow the national show, Locked On NHL, and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark, who will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. So, Cats fans, the Florida Panthers had to at least get one of these next two games in the nation's capital. The Florida Panthers, they don't come out to that nervous start as something that Andrew Burnett has spoken about in the first two games. They get a quick goal early on, scored by Jonathan Huberdeau. And then the rest of that, it was all Washington from there on out. And just kind of the same issues for the Florida Panthers from the first game and parts of game 2 carried on over to this game 3, except it was reversed with the Florida Panthers getting off to that fast start and then Washington doing it the rest of the way. But on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, I have Francisco Oporta of Litterbox Cats and who runs the Twitter page at FLA Cats History on Twitter. So on the other side of the audio is Francisco. Francisco, how are you doing today?
I could be a lot better this afternoon, Armando, and it's mainly because of the Florida Panthers, and I think tons of Panthers fans can relate, young and old. But yeah, I'm fine myself, but man, today was a rough one.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a rough one for these Florida Panthers, and like I said at the top, the Cats, they came out firing early. I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau got a goal like early on in this one, and I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau has had a great series offensively. I mean, he had that backhand pass to Alexander Barkov right in game 2, and then just the first 2 minutes and 45 seconds gets that one, and
that was a fantastic play because Ovechkin laid a hit on him earlier in that play, and it's like, okay, all right, Ovi's coming with the heat right there, and then Hubie, as an MVP candidate should do, responded quickly with the goal right there. And it was like, okay, all right, I think, yeah, we're going to do right. We're going to do all right. Let's do this. And then, well, the rest of the game happened.
Yeah. And even then with the Panthers scoring, I mean, and everything just fell apart from there. I mean, the power play, let's just go straight into it. The Florida Panthers now in this series are 0 of 9 on the power play, while the Washington Capitals themselves are 4 of 12. I mean, even in their game 2 loss for the Washington Capitals, they get a power play goal. They get one in the first few minutes of game 1 from Tom Wilson. And once again, there was no Tom Wilson in this one. I mean, on the second power play that the Florida Panthers had, they went back to 5 forwards. So I'm starting to think that maybe Aaron Ekblad might still be playing a little hurt, but and maybe they're going back to that 5-man unit. But man, it's been very pass happy for this power play unit. What do you think about that?
It seems like they they've kind of forgotten the entire regular season, which is concerning. And I get it. It's the playoffs, it's the postseason, and there's a constant that I heard, especially in the post game interviews with Brandon Montour, with Jonathan Huberdeau, with Coach Brunette, was the nerves. The thing about the nerves and how these guys are coming out. And yes, there's a massive amount of pressure for this team. This is the best team in franchise history. They've got all of this pressure as a number one seed, the President's Trophy, which of course comes with its own stigmas and curses. But it seems like this team has forgotten the entire regular season, and that's a problem. They rekindled that in Game 2, which was a great follow up, especially after the kind of deflating Game 1. And this reminds me of the Panthers of maybe earlier in the season. Remember the Panthers, of course, they had fantastic at home all season long. But at the beginning of the season, their issue was road games. They had a lot of trouble winning road games. They evened that out as the season went on. That's for sure. And of course, ended up most road victories in franchise history. But earlier in the season, it seemed like they were just a team that was not road warriors. And it seems like now they look like the team from maybe last season or God forbid, the team from 2020 in the bubble with the New York Islanders. It seems like they're playing like that. And look, there's a ton of guys from this is, I would say, I don't know, I would call this like the third season of this core being constructed, like the transition from Dale Talon to Bill Zito's era right here. And I do feel concerned that they keep talking about nerves up to this point, because this is the third season, and you have to remember a lot of these guys have been in the league for a long time. Jonathan Huberdeau's been in the league since 2013. Barkov since 2013-14, then Ekblad 2014-15, right? Like these guys have been in the league forever. At this point, they're still like young, relatively, of course, but they've been in the league for a long time. They've experienced playoff hockey before. Remember, their first was 2015-16 in that squad that had a ton of veterans on the team to help them and teach them. And now I do find it concerning that they're still talking about nerves 3 years into, I would say, this core. And it doesn't seem like something a number one team should be talking about. And you can contrast it to the other team out west, who was the number one seed, the Colorado Avalanche, who have also had their playoff woes, have been knocking on the door, and they're out playing Nashville the way they should be. And I don't see that from the Panthers. And maybe, and I'm rambling on here a bit, but it's probably also has to do with their opponent, the Washington Capitals. This is playoff experienced team, 4 years removed from the Stanley Cup final. Half of that team is still there. And this is not really like a normal 1 versus 8 seed in a normal season, because the Eastern Conference especially like was very much established which teams were going to make the playoffs about a month and a half ago. There was a clear delineation between the 8th seed and the 9th seed. It was like, the New York Islanders are like 10 points behind the Capitals. So, and all the teams got 100 points this season. So the Capitals aren't scrubs that are coming in. Panthers are just going to spank them. So I don't know, but the nerves thing gets me right now.
Yeah, and I can kind of see why. I can see both sides of the argument where they're talking about nerves more like the guys who haven't been there before versus some of the guys who have. And going back to your Colorado reference, going back to they're playing against Nashville, they're taking care of them right now. Right now it's 2-1 Avalanche at the end of the first period. And I think if this team is to get a first round series win, then there maybe be a change of terminology, maybe, because I don't think we've heard someone like Jared Bednar for the Colorado Avalanche talk about it, because they have tasted that little bit of glory of getting past an opponent before. While this is when I talk about it, as far as this team as a collective, they haven't gotten over that hump yet. So they're just trying to figure that part out first. And of course, they when they get back on the ice, I think what needs to be spoken about in the locker room to speak about this, they have to say this: it's still hockey at the end of the day, and that you have to go out and play the opponent on the other side and play the game that you knew once when they had the regular season. Of course, their season series goes back to November. That was the last time they played, and they had and all of those games were close. So nobody was expecting this to be a close matchup by any stretch of the imagination. But man, that experience on the other side is really it's really alarming for the Florida Panthers. Now they find themselves down 2-1 in this series against a playoff experienced team. So now the people who have won a cup on the team, aka Patrick Hornquist, uh, that is somebody who's probably going to have to really step up in the locker room and talk to them about just saying, "Hey, I've been down in plenty of series before." It's about how you come out of the next practice and how they're able to just relax. Brandon Montour after the game talked about how the guys in the locker room were telling each other to keep calm. So that's what I'm hoping that this Florida Panthers team does is to keep calm and that they don't come out in game 4 having to do too much in the next one. So that's kind of where I stand as far as that. How about you?
There was I think I heard a quote from Goldie during the game about Anton Lundell. This is his first playoff series, and how game 1 he was incredibly nervous, but game 2 he calmed down. He had himself a much better game, and I think they need to kind of copy and paste that sentiment from here on out for the rest of the team. Patrick Hornquist is of course there, and he's obviously the most targeted guy for the Caps because of all that history with him on the Penguins. And
yeah, he got jabbed 3 times by Ovi too.
Yeah,
let's not forget.
I was kind of hoping, Barkov's a huge Miami Heat fan. If he could maybe give Udonis Haslem a call or something, be like, "Hey man, how do you do this?" Different sports, but yeah, there just seems to be something off about this team right now. In game 1, it was more of like a deflating sort of thing. They were leading going into the third period, and this game was just more of as the game wore on, the Capitals fans were just super into the game, very loud, and they, holding the sticks a little too tightly as the game wore on, especially towards the second period. So 1-1, you head into the second period there, and it seems like they had some chances there, but I feel like they might have pressed on or maybe worried a little too much that the puck wasn't going in. I wasn't getting past Samsonov, who's played well enough since the Capitals switched to him. And it's always that stigma for Panthers fans too from the past. They put in the backup goal and he plays like a Vezina candidate afterwards. Everybody remembers Grice from the Islanders days.
2016. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe it's, gosh, there's a lot in my head right now as to that. But I remember specifically that second period, it seems like they kind of got frustrated with not getting something towards the net, that they just didn't keep grinding. And like the moment the Capitals saw that and were able to, I don't want to say a pun, but they capitalized on it with their own goals, especially the power play goals. One from Oshie from the tip in from Ovechkin, and then Ovechkin with the howitzer. And it's like their stars came to play.
Absolutely.
And you knew Ovechkin was going to get his at some point. But I think the overall theme for the Capitals, because for the Panthers, it's been this run and gun offense all season long, this high scoring, high octane offense. The Capitals have done something completely different. They've dragged the Panthers down into the muck.
They slowed it down. Yeah.
Yep. And the Capitals, I guess you could say, especially from their experience, not being able to get over the hump all those years, winning the Southeast Division, all that stuff, can't get past the Penguins. they might be doing the same thing. Like, we'll drag them down in the muck because we've now done this before, and the Panthers don't know how to respond to that. It makes you wonder, what if this was a Lightning Panthers series again? Would the Panthers have responded differently to a different opponent? That's what if scenarios, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly. Or what if it was Florida Boston? Would it be a completely different story? They had seen Boston plenty of times beforehand. So, and I don't know, but they've got the Capitals in front of them, and they're on the road. And if they go down 3-1, it's not gonna. It's not good. It's not good, Bob.
No, definitely not good, for sure, if that is the case. But we're gonna talk more about that on the other side. I'm Armando Velez. I got Francisco Oporta of Litterbox Cats and Florida Panthers historian. But first, we're gonna tell you all about Built Bar. And summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bags, in your kids' backpack. Make sure that everybody has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. The best part about Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both. It's easy. All you have to do is go to built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built Bars, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. Have you tried the Built Puffs yet? We're crazy about the Puffs. They come in crazy flavors like banana cream pie, even churro. Who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro? And they're only 140 calories. Sign me up. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Second segment here on this post-game Saturday matinee edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. On the other side of the audio, I got Francisco Oporta of Litterbox Cats and Florida Panthers historian on the other side. So, Francisco, I don't necessarily blame officiating for losses. The Florida Panthers did not lose because of officiating.
No.
But even though there was a few calls that were questionable for the Cats, there was a few undisciplined penalties that the Florida Panthers did, in fact, take. I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau is one of them. I know that, like, Andrew Burnett after the game spoke about how when the team gets frustrated, sometimes sloppiness can happen. And Jonathan Huberdeau, I believe it was just midway through the third period when it was really out of hand for the Florida Panthers. Just an interference against Nick Dowd just goes right on the back of him. And then earlier in that second period, Anthony Duclair with an interference on Lars Eller at the 11:45 mark of the second period as well. Despite the questionable officiating for the Florida Panthers, this has been a series where sometimes the Capitals have gotten into Florida Panthers' head. I mean, we saw Mason Marchment with that double minor in game 2, and now with and then Sam Bennett takes that double minor, and then it carries over to the third period. So kind of a little bit undisciplined, where the Washington Capitals are really getting into this team's head at the moment.
They are completely in their heads at this point. This game was most telling of all. I feel like they responded much better to that in game 2, but this game especially, it seems like the Capitals are laying on the hits a little bit harder. And you can see they were, especially towards Jonathan Huberdeau and Alexander Barkov. And the Panthers, yeah, we've got our guys. We've got Radko. We've got, of course, for me, my Swedish man crush is Patrick Hornquist. But it just can't be those guys. And yeah, Huberdeau was incredibly frustrated, and he said so himself after the game, the post game press conference, that he just kind of lost his cool there. And what's more, reiterating my point, this series, and I saw it in game 1. They responded much better to it in game 2, but game 3 is most personified by the fact that the Capitals have once again dragged the Panthers down to the muck, into their level, not letting the Panthers get that high octane offense going, and just irritating them to the point that they're going to respond with a retaliation. And then, hey, the ref's not going to see the cross check, but he's going to see the retaliation penalty. And suddenly the Capitals get a power play out of that, right? So it's not the Panthers game, and they've been thrown off. And right now, it's all about kind of getting all of that out of their heads, um, and especially just not having that whole effect of having their um, being chickens with their heads cut off, which sometimes I saw, especially in the second period, towards the end, with that third goal, and then the power play, especially, which is really, they just kind of forgot how to do it, and not good. I'm seeing the comments as well that people are posting, and I guess another point of emphasis, and I might want to
Let's talk
ask you
about it.
about this. He seems to be the shining beacon for Panthers fans and Panthers Twitter right now, Mackenzie Weegar.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
what do you believe the Panthers should do with him?
I don't think he'll get scratched. I don't think he will. But I think they entertain the possibility of possibly Gustav Forsling on the top line for the Panthers is something that Andrew Burnett could entertain, or Ben Sherratt as well. I mean, even before, even when the game was tied, there was a great sequence in the early part of the game where Bob was making some spectacular saves, and Ben Sherratt was right there to clear the puck to get it out, and that's why you trade for someone like Ben Sherratt. They traded a 2023 first round pick for him, so there's a I wouldn't mind if it's either Ben Sherratt or Gus Forsling. I mean, Gus Forsling also has a lot of speed, a lot of speed. He has a very active stick as well. He's a guy who knows how to drive play to the net, which is something that the Florida Panthers really struggled with. I mean, let me show you a chart from Natural Stat Trick. Gonna full screen it and just kind of see where the Panthers were. I mean, look at where the Capitals were in this one versus where the Panthers were. Not a lot of pressure up front on Samsonov today. So they had a little bit of issues getting not getting pucks into the net, but not getting close enough to challenge Samsonov more. I mean, Samsonov was also great in game 2 where he came in the third period and stopped all 17 of the shots he faced. So the I think you got to entertain possibly putting Mackenzie Weegar down a line possibly, and I'm coming up with something on the top of my head. I maybe like Forsling, Ekblad on the top line, maybe Weegar Montour or something like that. Or I mean, Montour and Weegar, the luxury of them is that they can play on both sides. So you could also mix and match something along the lines of Weegar playing on the right side. Let's not forget that Weegar playing with Ekblad, he's on his unnatural side too. So that's the thing with Mackenzie Weegar about where he's positioned. But listen, he's great at taking the puck away, but sometimes when the Panthers are in their own zone trying to create the zone exits, twice already, two specific plays during this series has really cost the Panthers. So it's really it really raises an eyebrow, and it's really concerning based on Mackenzie Weegar's play as of late.
Yeah, that's probably the most. I guess the thing Panthers, especially that are pointing out to the two specific moments that have kind of high leverage plays as well. In moments where they shouldn't have been, right? They were momentum changing, momentum swinging plays and goals that Washington capitalized. I keep using that word, but it seems perfect to talk about with the Capitals. But it's and that's kind of been the thing. He might be overthinking some things, and which is once again adding towards the whole nerves narrative between the Cats right now. As far as Samsonov and watching the post game show, and they actually highlighted this. Ed Jovanovski was highlighting this, that the Panthers were shooting the puck, towards him, but the Capitals were kind of closing the box inside and front of Samsonov, not allowing the Panthers to have any sort of second chances, and the Panthers weren't really like dragging the Capitals defenders out towards them so they can get somebody towards the inside and try and get some of those much higher quality shots, right? So it seems like that's kind of been the Capitals' answer towards stopping what other Panthers can do. So the Panthers are gonna have to find a way to get a little more creative, maybe a little more patience as well with the puck in the Washington zone to kind of not get frustrated with the fact that they're not getting shots or good shots on Samsonov and making him uncomfortable at this point because it seems like the Panthers haven't really thrown out the first punch towards Washington. It seemed like it was going to be that this game when Huberdeau scored early on, but then the Capitals came right back with another right hook, and then the Panthers were kind of like woozy the rest of the game, if you want to use a boxing terminology there. So, yeah, it's a bit concerning. Bob has been great. I can't blame Bob for really anything today. To be honest, and he's been spectacular this entire series. I think the Panthers don't want to shake things up too much by be like, well, maybe we try Spencer Knight, and it's like, no. Like Bob is in a groove right now. You keep him, right? You figure all the other stuff out. Don't mess with this because he's kind of got a good thing going. He made a fantastic series of saves around like the 240 mark of the first period when it seemed like, okay, like I think Backstrom had like a net. He stuck out his right leg to stop it. And it seemed like the Panthers were going to get the momentum, but then power play goal for Oshie right there. It kind of was a little bit deflating there, but yeah, there's several things that have gone wrong.
Yeah, I was ready to ask you about whether Spencer Knight should be coming in for the Panthers, and I'm in agreement with you that it should be Sergei Bobrovsky coming in, staying in for the Panthers. Can't blame this loss on Sergei Bobrovsky. That save that you're talking about, that was the same one that Sherratt was clearing the puck and getting right in front of the net, showing his awareness there. And of course, also the Marcus Johansson goal. I mean, that one was the Florida Panthers just inability to retrieve the puck after even though it was a juicy rebound by Bobrovsky, no Florida Panthers around Marcus Johansson to create as he created a backhand attempt on the goal and gets one in. And Ovechkin, we'll actually talk about Ovechkin in the next segment, which we've been asking the question, how do you stop Ovechkin? And many people around the National Hockey League still don't know the answer to that. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting skills and info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this weekend's run to the Roses at the Kentucky Derby. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Third and final segment on this live Saturday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got Francisco Oporta of Litterbox Cats and Florida Panthers historian. He runs the page on Twitter at FLA Cats History. So, Francisco, a very quiet series so far for the Washington Capitals, and now Alexander Ovechkin has finally got it going as far as the goal department. He's been driving play, he's been distributing to his teammates, but man, it's a little bit of a bummer that Alexander Ovechkin, I mean, he could have had 2 power play goals tonight, but it was eventually changed to TJ Oshie on the tip in. But man, he's really on a groove, and even a guy in his late 30s signed a new contract on his way to breaking the score record for the NHL. But man, the on that one timer, man, it was, Andrew Burnett described it as a broken play, and then Alexander Ovechkin just gets it. We call Patrick Hornquist's office like right in front of the net, but man, Alexander Ovechkin's office is something that we've been seeing for years. The left circle, one timer, gets it through, and just continuing that consistent theme of like how he's been able to score throughout his career. And just, man, it's a bummer having him left wide open right there. And I'm not going to blame Bob for that, even though he had a chance to stop it. But man, when you're talking about the greatest goal scorer of all time, it's really it's really depressing, and not depressing. Depressing is the wrong word. It's really like a what's I'm blanking here.
It's an inevitability that he's going to score.
Yeah,
it's really, you just kind of have to accept it right now. It's much like you could, like people back in the 80s with Wayne Gretzky. It's like he's gonna score, he's gonna find a way. You just kind of have to hope that the rest of your team can contain the rest of the guys that are on the Oilers.
yeah.
So it just, didn't really happen. But but yeah, Ovechkin, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going for that goal scoring record. It's once again inevitable that he's going to score. He got the monkey off his back in 2018. So at this point, he's probably the most relaxed he's ever been in a playoff series right now. The fact that he hadn't scored the first 2 games, not a problem for him. Came back, looked like he scored, but Oshie got the tip in, and then he scored himself. So it's just an inevitability with Ovechkin. I can't fault the Panthers with regards to that, but I can fault them with all the other guys scoring for the Capitals and they themselves not really doing anything. I mean, honestly, the discipline, 6 power plays for Washington, and the fact that the Panthers couldn't get anything going, because look, they had 3 chances earlier in that game. Let's say the first 2 periods. The first 2 periods, I would say, was the game. The third period, I stopped taking notes in the third period. Like the third period was just kind of like a wash after that. You could tell that the momentum was gone for the Panthers, and Washington was not going to let them get it back. So third period, it was just basically like I stopped taking notes because it didn't really matter. But the first 2 periods was the game for the Panthers, and they had their 3 chances, and I think if they can score a power play goal, that might be the key. If they can go into game 4 and find a way to actually score on the power play, figure it out, find some sort of way, pepper Samsonov with some shots, maybe, just maybe, that'll be kind of like the relief that they'll need to kind of go into the rest of the game as, okay, this is a hockey game again. It may just be the playoffs. It may be the refs will swallow the whistles a little bit more. There's going to be more backhanded stuff going on. The Capitals are going to try and drag you down. But if they can just not be bothered by it, then I think they'll at least have a fighting chance.
Yeah, and to piggyback on your point when it comes to the game for the Panthers and their 3 opportunities, I'm looking at it right now when the Washington penalties were obviously the double minor on Sam Bennett and Anthony Mantha roughing Bennett canceled out Anthony Mantha's roughing, but the only 3 penalties that Washington took were in the first 25 minutes of the game. The rest of the way, they didn't give the Florida Panthers a single man advantage after that. Anthony Mantha at the 17:30 mark of the first period, and then two penalties in the beginning of the second period. Farivari tripping Noel Acciari, and then Justin Schultz interference against Mason Marchment. And the Panthers, like I said, they went on that 5F unit with putting Anthony Duclair back and Aaron Ekblad down 1. And when your power play is not going and you're 0 for 9, you got to try it and put stuff in a blender a little bit. But man, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that if they obviously what's going right now is not working. But I'm also concerned, going back to that 5-unit power play, that if there's someone who's out of position at the blue line, there could be a shorthanded opportunity going the other way, because we saw that quite a few times towards the end of the regular season. So that's a little bit of my concern. That's why I'm questioning whether Aaron Ekblad is healthy or not.
It may just be, and I can't. I mean, we can't really say for right now. They're not going to tell us, obviously.
Absolutely not.
I mean, he played. Let's see how many. He played like 24 minutes today. Let's see. Yeah, he played 24 minutes, 23. seconds of ice time, the most on the team today. So he's willing to be out there. I don't really think he's injured, to be honest. It might be game speed. It might also be that. I mean, he hasn't seen game time in a while. It may just be that, but even then, I think for a guy who hasn't played in a while, he's holding his own as comparison to once again. I hate throwing Uyghur under the bus, but man, just these shining moments of just brain farts. That's putting it lightly. That really have swung the momentum of, and you can even say the series at this point. So for now, hopefully they can come back game 4. And honestly, we just kind of have to look forward to that from here on, because I mean, we can break down this game more, but it's the Panthers got punched in the face and they got beat down hard, and there's no other answer other than, all right, game 4, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. And I know they only have 7 games max in order to advance to the next round, of course. But I also kind of partially think of it as when the Florida Panthers were playing in the regular season and having a little bit of a hard time getting their power play going, they were still scoring at even strength. And they're at times in the series, they are, with the exception of today. This was a game where just even all over the place offensively, they just couldn't find a way. And Jonathan Huberdeau's goal that he scored was not even close to near the net. It was near the top of the circle. So just if the Florida Panthers can just crash the net more often, and of course we talk about a little bit of the dump and chase game as well. There needs to be a little bit more of that instead of trying to force zone entries in as well. So with the Panthers and that, if they can get their even strength game going like they have in the regular season, then I think the power play is going to come. And they showed it in game 2 with that, despite not scoring a power play goal. And the Panthers need is to just, I believe, just to get that one out of the way, and then they can take off from there.
Oh yeah, it's completely in their heads right now. It's not like their talent completely sapped away the moment that the regular season ended. It's just they knew this was coming. Adding this President's Trophy on top of everything might have not helped matters, which is, I mean, fans were debating, maybe we shouldn't win the President's Trophy. Maybe we don't need that mental curse upon us. But right now, it's just a matter of them just finding themselves again. They're lost. They are completely lost right now.
Yeah. For now they are, but they found a way to adjust after game 2.
Yeah.
The players in the locker room are going to tell everybody that it's going to be the same thing, that everybody's going to go back to the drawing board and just watch the tape again, just like they did after game 1, and just continue to try to not have that, as Andrew Burnett says, nervous start to their game going into game 4. So the key this whole time, Francisco, was to get one on the road in Washington. And listen, they get one on the road. It's all good vibes coming into game 5, coming into FLA Live Arena, which for the people listening, game 5 will be a 7:30 start on ESPN2 on Wednesday night. So Panthers will have another home game, of course, after winning game 2. So just it comes with winning a championship. You make adjustments after you lose. And I'm going to go back to something that Frank Rikas talks about of PantherParkway.com. He talks about the Blackhawks losing game 1 at home in 2010, and then losing game 3 on the road as well. And they still found a way to go all the way to the cup. It's not over, Florida Panther fans. The Panthers, they're going to find a way to adjust. And then if they find a way to drop game 4, well, we might be having a different conversation going into game 5. So hopefully we won't be having that. I definitely hope we're not having that, because you might have a different toned Armando coming into Monday night, Tuesday morning for everyone listening. So, Francisco, I want to thank you so much for jumping on this episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. It was great having you on for your first time on the show, actually. So tell everybody on the other side listening to this where they can find you and your work online.
Okay, so I've got a few things that I do. So, of course, if you're just want the Panther stuff, FLA Cats History on Twitter, Florida Panthers historian. I couldn't take Panthers history because some Carolina Panthers fan got it and probably got suspended. So that's no longer available. But hey, FLA Cats history, that's where I'm at. I post videos, pictures. I try and look up ancient news articles or find like ancient knickknacks from like the 90s, 2000s. Got some powder blue stuff I like to, and even today as well. I mean, because the Panthers are making history right now, and on the video version of this show, you can see some of the things that I have posted. I also do Marlins history at Marlins history, which is the Florida Marlins / Miami Marlins version of what I do for FLA Cats history. And I do have my own podcast I do with my friends. It's called Sports Goose at sports_goose on Twitter. And we just kind of mess around. If you guys just want to hang out and just be done with us, we can do that too. But aside from that, you can also check out Letterboxd Cats. I do all the graphics there. And every once in a while, when I do have the time, I will post on there as well. But thanks, Armando, for having me on. I know Locked On has all kinds of stuff. I follow Peter Pratt, who does Locked On Marlins on their baseball side of things, and I also do follow you, Locked On Panthers, as well.
Thank you so much, and mostly I don't know what took so long for me to get you on the show, but definitely got to have you on again. So thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. I'm here.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On NHL on the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. We'll be covering all the postseason activities around the National Hockey League. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steel Rhoda and Flip Livingstone help you become the experts of your fantasy team. Follow the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. So Armando Velez with Francisco Oporta. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.